Welcome back to the Shine Within podcast. Mary Jo Cranmore is an intuitive astrologer and a spiritual path healer with over 25 years of experience. Passionate about helping people discover their life mission, Mary Jo uses astrology, tarot, and numerology to guide individuals towards self-awareness and lasting happiness. Through her unique integration of these disciplines, she empowers her clients to unlock their true potential and navigate their life's journey with clarity and purpose. Mary Jo's own transformative experiences have fueled her dedication to helping others find joy and fulfillment in their own lives. Beautiful, Mary Jo. It's such an honor to have you on my show. I'm so excited today.
Oh, thank you, Gina. Nice to see you. I hope everything's going great with you.
Oh, it is. And it's going to get better because I'm talking to you about astrology, numerology, and tarot. These are fun topics and I love it all. Can you just go ahead and start off by explaining how astrology and numerology and tarot can actually help someone discover their life's mission and purpose?
Definitely. So I recall when I first started being interested in astrology and numerology. Numerology really got me into it. And it's the one thing that was sort of like I haven't I focus on a little bit of numbers and what numbers mean, like angel numbers and things like that, because I feel like that's what most people, how they interact with numbers in many ways. But how those three things can interact and help you, astrology really is a very interesting way of us understanding our own energy and how we are working in the world, the energy of the world. Here we are in this lifetime. And tarot is archetypal. So it's very similar in my mind. Like Jupiter is the energy of expansion and the god of this wonderful kind of luck and good stuff. And tarot is also archetypal. So you can see how the two interact. The Jupiterian energy shows up in a couple of the cards in the major arcana. So a lot of the things I talk about, I bring astrology in, I weave tarot in, and I weave in numerology. The way people can use it, I really feel like numerology, tarot, and astrology are tools to help you understand yourself better and to give you kind of aha moments about the things that are going on in your life. They're not just random events, right? Things are connected with our mission and purpose. Things are connected with lessons that we're here to learn, Saturn. And if you start seeing things from a bigger perspective, which these tools can help you do, then things start to make sense. It's not just random stuff happening to me. I'm not just getting thrown under the bus by the world. Like I'm not a victim. I'm also not untouchable, right? Like there's lots of things that can come into play. If you're working with these tools, to me, it's power. And I had a woman, I was eating dinner with a friend of mine, and people, when you meet people, they ask you what you do. And I told this woman, and we were sitting at this bar at eating dinner, and I said, "Oh, I do astrology," and she was like, "Ooh, that's terrifying." And I was like, "Why? Why does that terrify you?" And she's like, "Well, I don't want to know any bad news." And I think that's a pretty common fear when you're sort of opening up to information about yourself and about your life. And I always think of it the other way around. I always think of it as like knowledge is power. So I want to understand what's happening with the energies that are around me and how I can use them to my best advantage. So that's how I work with it and how I teach it.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yes. I was just sharing with you that I'm getting into astrology because all I knew before is just my sign, and that's it. A
Yep.
Sagittarius. I'm a Sagittarius.
Me too.
Oh, you are. Love the Sagittarius.
Are you
Fire signs.
December or November?
I'm
December or November?
December 12th.
Yeah. Okay, December 9th. It's so rare to find a November Sagittarian.
I
It
think I
really,
know one in my life, a November
me too.
Sagittarian, and he is a male. Yeah, he's a male. And
Yep,
that's
they're
about
all
it.
males. Right.
That's so funny. Yes, and so it's so fun to explore because I have a big open mind. Like I want to know everything. And if it resonates with me, awesome. If it doesn't, then it doesn't at that this
Correct.
time. Maybe in the
Correct.
future it will. And I'm noticing a lot of numbers just because we're talking about numbers. I am seeing a lot of 143, 555, 222,
Mhm.
111. all the time. And I'm like, okay, does this mean that I'm being guided somehow? What's going on? So, how does understanding one's life path number help people harness their potential and live more fully?
Those are, I think when you're seeing your life number repeated back to you, that always says to me, okay, there's some special guidance for me. And I just did a little class the other day. I have a group called Pathfinders, and I was talking with them about numbers and about how to understand what the numbers mean. Like if you're seeing 111 on the clock all the time, or a friend of mine, this is a good example. A friend of mine sees 1, 2, 3, 4 all the time. And she's a musician. And she was like, well, what does that mean? And I'm like, you spend your life counting to four. 1, 2, 3, 4, right? That's, one of the things you spend your life doing when you're a musician is you're counting off the beats, you're counting off the measures. And she was like, oh, I never even thought of that. And when you start seeing numbers all the time, I've been seeing 555 a lot. And if you know the numbers 0 through 9, the single digits, you'll be able to sort of get a sense of what they mean. Okay. So zero is like the Fool. It's like the brand new beginning of something before it's potential, right? It's not even started yet, it's just potential. One is more the next step. One is like, okay, I've got an idea, I've got something going on here, there's some kind of traction to it. And it is about us too. One is our singular self. It's who we are, it's how we're manifesting in the world, it's about us. And that's why 1111 is very relevant in the twin flame world, because it's like two 11s, two sets of 11s, fully integrated masculine feminine beings, sort of connecting with each other. So whenever I see 1111, to me that's always about twin flame. 222 is a lot about building. The number 2 is about building. Number 3 is about getting more out into the world. Number 3 is how you connect to other people, right? It's like a triangle. 4 can be structure, 5 is change, 6 is choices, 7 is spiritual, 8 is put in the work. If you see 8 a lot, it's telling you get to work. And if you see 9s a lot, usually that means the closing of a chapter. And so what I kind of recommend people do, a lot of times you're just going to immediately pick up your phone and you're going to want to, what does it mean? 555, what does that mean? If you're wanting to really build your intuitive sense in your life, what I'm going to suggest you do is start to learn what they mean for you personally. So learn what numbers 0 through 9 means, what I just said to you, which is very basic. And then when you start seeing numbers, ask your, hey, intuition, what does that mean for me? Help me understand what that means for me. And I'm a journaler. I journal every morning. I do a reading for myself every morning. I ask questions about that all the time. I do a little automatic writing. Your job is to determine what it means for you, not what a book says or somebody on the internet says. Really, these are personal numbers between you and your guides. You may also have you may also have other kinds of signs. Like a friend of mine is really connected to an owl in nature, and whenever she sees owls, she knows that that means it's her time to really go deep and understand her own wisdom about something, as opposed to searching outside of herself. So you can see numbers and ask about their meaning. That starts to get you a good relationship, working relationship with your guides. So I highly recommend you do that.
Yes, those guides are very important. They're my spiritual team. They help me out throughout the whole day. Like if I, because I'm,
Yes.
kids are at school, husband's at work, I work from home, and I have my cat here. He's funny. Luckily, he's not making a mess because, oh my goodness. And every time I'm in a podcast, he's just like, if I don't pay attention to him, he'll make sure I pay attention to him by doing something, knocking down something.
Right. This is Maisie and I have Charlie. And
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
they're not both mine, but they're brother and sister. This is my friend's dog.
Oh.
So she comes over for play dates every once in a while. But you might have heard him digging behind me before we started. So I apologize for
Oh
that.
no, I didn't hear anything.
Okay, good. Good.
Um, yes, I was gonna go ahead and ask you about what was I going to ask you? I lost my train of thought. Oh, about tarot reading. Okay,
Oh, yeah.
so I was on a podcast. She's a friend of mine, and remember I told you some of my friends are doing started doing tarot reading, and
Right.
she just pulled out a card, and then she told me before the podcast was going to start that my card was the devil. And I was like, in my mind, immediately, I thought it was like something bad, like something bad going to happen to me. And she's like, no, 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 no. It doesn't mean
No.
that. For our audience who are fearful of seeing those types of cards, can you explain what the devil card can actually mean instead of, evil,
Sure.
bad?
Sure. Like I said to you that everything is about power. Like it's interesting. I said everything's about power, and actually that devil card is about power. And because the devil card, everything, we live in a world of duality. So everything has a high vibration and a low vibration. You decide how you're going to use that energy. The energy of the devil card is ruled by it's Capricorn, first of all. And so that's about hard work. That's about putting in the effort. And Capricorn's ruled by Saturn. So Saturn is about lessons. And so sometimes the devil card can mean workaholism. It can mean doing too much or getting yourself stuck in a situation. A lot of the times when I see the devil card, and to a lesser degree, the Eight of Swords is kind of the same energy. The devil card is addictions, and it can be about because it's something that you feel powerless to, but you have something you can do about it. And a lot of times, when I said the devil card is about power, people can be like, well, there's nothing I can do. It's an addiction. My father was this way. I'm this way. There's nothing to be done about it. And that's like giving away your power, right? So even if, I have known a few people in my life who have some really difficult addictions, and who have, each one of them has kind of behaved in a different way, and they've either harnessed the energy of Saturn and said, okay, this is one of my big life lessons, and I am going to inspire other people through my story, through the experience of having lived this, and this is what it means to me, and this is the story about it. Or I'm helpless, I'm a victim, there's nothing to be done, and that means stuck, right? That means that because if you tell yourself that story, that there's nothing to be done, or if you tell yourself that story, oh gosh, it's the devil, that means it's evil or anything like that. Whatever story you're telling yourself about things becomes the truth for you. And so, we have millions of thoughts every single day coming through our minds, and sometimes you grab onto those thoughts, and the more you think those particular thoughts, they become beliefs. And the more you believe in that, it becomes a conviction. And so that becomes like anchored in stone. It's like permanent. And there's never any change from that. Most people can look at their own belief systems and say, I can question that, or I can think that's a little not serving me right now. But most people don't look at their own convictions. They think that that's how the world works. And that is the lowest vibe of that devil card, that they're just helpless, hopeless, have no power in this situation. And, whenever you get a card like that, or the death card scares people, or the tower card scares people, or even like the Ten of Swords, like, yeah, they're scary looking. There is no question about it. But in my mind, I'm always thinking, like, what's the highest vibe use of this energy, right? If the tower comes along and blows apart some job that sucks your soul and pays you no money, okay, maybe it's tough for a couple of weeks until you figure something out. But at the end of the day, that was a good thing. Like, you needed to get out of there. And the death card is just about transformation. It's about change. It's about going from one way of being in the world to another. So, I don't like any of the dark decks. I am not interested in low vibration stuff. That's not my vibe. It's not my brand. It's not something that I even think is very useful, honestly. So that's how I look at it.
Oh, thank you so much for clarifying because I know some people are just get so freaked out when they see those cards, but it's like, no, just your perspective on it, maybe change your story like you were saying. So
Yes.
yeah, thanks for that. So this kind of ties into my next question. What is the difference between fear and intuition, and how can someone learn to differentiate between the two?
Fear is something that is useful, right? It's useful. Like, you don't want to get eaten by the saber-toothed tiger, so you run, right? It's an instinct. Fear is instinct, and it has its purpose, but it's not intuition. Okay. Intuition is a knowing. It is a quiet voice. Fear is shrill, loud, bullying. Um, and your intuition is going to be something that you can then work with. Fear is either you're in it or you're not. And most of the time, when people are in the energy of fear, they're not making good decisions. Other than to run away from the saber-tooth tiger, that's a good idea. But but if you're making decisions from fear, the long-term value of those may or may not prove to be worthy. Okay. So that fear space, one of the messages I've been getting, because I'm a channeler, I channel my tarot readings. One of the loudest message I'm getting right now is about anything that's built on fear or any choices that are made from fear are going to need to be reimagined. So industries built on fear, the insurance industry, other kinds of industries that are built around, if you don't do this, it's going to be bad for you. And like, that's their marketing strategy or whatever it is. Like that at the very least needs to be reimagined, because that's not where we're going. That's not the age of Aquarius. It absolutely is not. Intuition is, we all have four main types of them: clairaudient, claircognizant, clairvoyant, and clairsentient. Those are the main four types, and all of us have access to all four. Most of us access one in our lifetime. Clairaudient is that you hear music, or you hear a sentence, or you hear words. All right. You actually hear. That's how I got through college. I could hear my professors. It was almost like it was being delivered back to me during the tests. Like, yeah, it was a great hack. Like, I don't know how.
Lucky.
It's a great hack. So I'm mainly clairaudient, and it's funny because I was a journalism student and a film student in college. I'm not very clairvoyant. Like, I don't see pictures. Clairvoyance is about seeing pictures. But my dreams play out like movies, so I can kind of see how the film kind of got in my brain. But clairvoyant is about seeing pictures and getting images. Clairsentient is a feeling, right? Like, I have whenever I say something in a reading that's right on, I get shivers on the top of my legs, like little goosebumps on the top of my legs, and arm hair stands up and things like that. That's clairsentience. It's running through your feelings. And claircognizant is the only one that has nothing to do with the traditional five senses. Claircognizant is just an inner knowing. It's like, you don't know why you know, but you just know. And it's like, I'm not going to that party. That happened to me a couple of years ago, right after COVID was kind of like getting, people were now starting to mix, and it was in the summertime, and we were outside and everything like that. And I'm like, I'm not going to that party. And everybody got COVID from that party. And I still, knock on wood, have not gotten COVID.
Oh,
So
wow. That's nice.
I know. I'm a super dodger. I live in my house by myself. It's not that miraculous. Like, I never really see people. So it's not that miraculous.
You're
um,
protected.
yeah, I am. So if you want to work with your intuition, you have access to all those others. There's some minor ones, clairgustance, like you taste things or you smell smoke or things like that. And there's other ways of getting intuition that are, sort of less than those four big categories. But what your job is, just like I was talking about with the numbers, your job is really to determine where your knowing comes from, because we all have intuition and we all have access to it. And so if you could kind of like work with those four and just be like, yeah, I kind of hear music every once in a while. I kind of get this just knowing about something, or I'm very clairvoyant. I see pictures of people and then they call me or whatever it is. Just try to work with your own regular kind of life. And it's like you need to be an observer of yourself in order to really kind of start to work with your intuition.
Wow. Well, I think I'm picking up on all of my intuition. I'm gonna tell you a funny story. This is about my cat.
Okay.
So one evening, it was like in the middle of the night, I woke up and I was like, I smelled like he pooed in the house. I was like, because we have a little, we have the cat box in the garage, and there's a little cat door that goes inside outside. I'm like, but so I went downstairs. I didn't smell any poo, and I'm like, no, but it smells like his poo.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is that smell? Where is it coming from? I even woke up my husband. Do you smell that? I was like, no, I don't smell anything.
Oh
Well,
my gosh.
anyway, the next day he pooed twice and peed in the house. So I'm like,
Really?
am I like for like I don't
You're
know, is it
like
premonition
yeah.
smell or something like that? That I knew that he was going to be pooing because I was like, oh, this time he
What
did
is
poo.
that?
So I was like, he was mad because I was buying him a new cat bed and his cat bed wasn't there. And I took away his toy because I was washing it because he had peed on it. And so then he pooed. That's why he pooed twice. I
Yeah.
was like,
Oh no.
oh, why? Don't hate on me.
No, no
So,
hating. No haters.
so yes. And then when I have the fan on at night, I've always been like this. I hear people talking. I'll
Yeah.
hear like some drum and bass music in the background. I'll
Yep.
hear a lot of different things.
Yes.
And I have a knowing too. It's just more of
Mm-hmm.
a feeling inside, like, oh, this is happening
Yeah.
because then my hair starts standing up on my head.
Yes.
And then, I feel it in my gut. And
Yes.
I'm like, I gotta pay attention to this. So I
All good
totally understand what you're saying.
examples. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
All
So
good examples. Yep.
and everyone
Yep.
has it. My husband's just tapping into his intuition finally. He's starting to use the word intuition finally because he
Oh,
never did
wow.
before. So this is yeah, he's come a long way. He's come a long way.
It's so interesting. Like if everybody kind of has their own language about it, and especially men, because I think it is one of those things that women, women's intuition, it's always been, and mothers are amazing at knowing what's going on with their children. Really incredible connection between mothers and their children. And even for me, like ancestral kind I have a lot of ancestral connections to my aunties. I had a bunch of my mother's best friends growing up were all my aunties, right? And they all were very different. And Ursula was a photographer for Life and Look magazine, and Gertrude was an opera singer in Europe, and Dorothy was like smokes and did very different energy. And so whenever they kind of come to me, like it comes to me through like that just inner knowing, and I get the energy of them. One is very sort of big and flamboyant, and Dorothy's like no nonsense, and you know what I mean. So it's interesting to see how you can then work with those four and see how your guides come in, because that's how it works for me.
Oh, that's so awesome. I love it. Now, talk about astrology. How can astrology guide us in understanding the purpose of the relationships we actually encounter, especially challenging ones?
Oh God, yes. So astrology for me, I teach how to understand your own birth chart. So you really know what is your energy, what is what is going on with you, what are my lessons, what are my wounds. That all shows up in your birth chart. It's all there. It and paying attention to who you're becoming, because your birth chart is a snapshot of you the moment you're born, but your chart does progress as you get older. Your chart, it's called a secondary progressed chart, and your planets do move, the personal planets do move. And so your sun advances 1 degree every year. So we talked about being a sun sign Sagittarius. My sun is now in Aquarius. And so I'm radiating the energy more of Aquarius. I'm really aligning with this whole, age of Aquarius stuff, which is super cool. And Aquarius is about doing things differently and thinking about things differently. So I look at that. I look at my own chart. I've taught about something called the North Node and the South Node for many years, which is about your mission and purpose in this life, which I think is like the most, so many people come to me and they're like, I just don't know what I'm supposed to be doing here, or what is this about? And your North Node will really show you what you need to go toward. And the irony of that whole situation is the North Node and the South Node are always 180 degrees opposite each other. The South Node shows what information, what talents and skills you brought in with you to this life. You're already a master at these things. You don't need to do this. And North Node is where you're supposed to go. So most people's lives start out in their South Node because I'm a natural writer. So my South Node, shows that. It shows the natural skills and talents I have. And so most people choose jobs and careers based on that. And in fact, going toward that North Node. So at some point in your life, which did happen to me, you get kicked out of a career. You get kicked out of a life path. You get dumped on the side of the road. And your job is to say, okay, I need to take a risk and go toward that North Node. And when you do that, everything from the South Node opens back up. So it's not like you have to leave behind those skills and talents. It's just asking you to learn some new stuff. And then you're able to sort of reclaim those skills and talents, and then it kind of works together. So astrology to me, how I'm looking at people's lessons, people's what is on their path. What I have learned from astrology is that and this is from other avenues too. I do a lot of reading and a lot of channeling about the spiritual path. There's some stuff on our path that you agreed to do. And there's no getting out of it, right? There's no getting out of it. And you can do it, riding in a Range Rover, or you could do it riding on a tricycle with a broken wheel. Like, it's kind of up to you. How do you want to learn this lesson? And the more you resist, the more difficult that lesson is going to become. It's just going to keep coming back around. So it's sort of like what astrology has taught me to show people when I'm doing a reading for them is like, hey, you have now shown me you've gone toward this lesson and you run away from it like 3 or 4 times. We've talked. I know. I hear what you're saying. But here's the answer to it. So the astrology chart, based on what's happening now, can show you how to activate skills and talents you didn't even know you had, or can show you like, hey, this is something to learn. So don't be so afraid of it. It's really is on your path. Once you learn it, it's very much like a video game. You're going to up level. You're going to get those ruby boots and that gold dagger, and you can get to the next level of the video game. And okay, now there's new challenges. There never will be. This is the one group of people that always come and I've always like had the hardest time with is the group of people that says, how can I just make nothing happen to my life? How can I just leave it the way it is? I don't want anything to go wrong. I want to stay the same. And I'm just like, that has nothing to do with what this life is about. It has nothing to do with it. It's very Taurian energy to want safety and security forever. And that's awesome. But I'll tell you how you do it. You take risks. Because if you never take a risk, think about a kid who never leaves their parents' house. That is the riskiest thing you could do. They think it's the safest thing. Sorry if there's going to be a dog bark in a second.
No problem. No problem.
You might think it's the safest thing to do. So I'm going to stay in my parents' house. But think about a person who's 40, who's never left their parents' house. That's a devastating time in their life. They make it so much worse to never take a risk and never take a risk and never take a risk, because at some point that learning curve is steep and you're not going to escape it.
Wow. Yeah, I cannot be stagnant. Oh, that's like a nightmare for me. I have to always do something and progress and grow. Even when I was heavy in my alcoholism, I still was pushing. So was pushing to do something in my life. And luckily it became me getting sober and not doing what I'm doing. Yeah.
Good
And
for you.
what's interesting is that because we were talking about 1111, one of my
Yeah.
friends before she passed away, this was in
Mm.
2003, she was a close friend of mine. She would always say, I always see 1111, 1111,
Mm.
1111. And she was dear to me. And now you've made that connection as far as it being about a twin flame or so. And then you talk often about twin flame connections. I'm going to
Yeah.
tell you, I mean, in your opinion, somebody told me that my twin flame is not my husband now, is my ex-husband.
Mm.
I was like, is that why he still haunts me in my dreams?
Yeah. It's
So,
pretty common. It's pretty common.
yeah.
It
So
is.
yeah, and so how can astrology and tarot assist in working through these deep spiritual relationships when it comes to twin flame?
Oh, yeah. So it's so funny. We keep dancing around that Capricorn, Pluto, the devil energy in the tarot. Everything you're talking about is so interesting to me. And how I basically think about that is that you can use, obviously you can use your knowledge and everything like that, but when we're talking about difficult relationships, because twin flames are absolutely difficult relationships, I think I used to think, and I guess I still think this, that because I do a reading usually every week for twin flames. This week it was just about the divine feminine, but it was sort of like, I feel like this is God's bait. I feel like this is a way for people to start learning about their spiritual path, because the group of people who are on the twin flame journey really have a mission about love in this life. And a lot of them, I will say, I haven't really come across too many who are, in one of those perfectly blissful long-term relationships. It's just no. Most twin flames are, I believe, and what I've been shown in my readings, twin flames are here to upend the types of relationships that are difficult. They're here to upend those patterns. And each set of twin flames is unique. Each set of twin flames, there's no guarantee that those twin flames will be married. Sometimes a twin flame could be your mother, it could be a person you've never met before. Like there is some instance, and I've heard a couple stories about this, where it is a famous person, but there's so much stalker stuff out there that it's just kind of like, it's super rare. It's just not everybody is Taylor Swift's twin flame. Like it's just super rare. Okay. So most people in the twin flame journey are here to spiritually evolve through the energy of relationship. And, I get a lot of flack. I get a lot of flack. People, I see the comments all the time of people like, why are you always talking about love? Why does it always have to be about love? And I'm like, okay, because you do realize that people are our mirrors. You would not grow on your own. That's why Castaway was such a phenomenal undertaking, because it was about him trying to grow on his own, which was much harder than if you were in relationship. People push you, especially twin flames will push you. And there are people on this planet that are, I call them plutonic relationships, which is a sort of the flip side of a twin flame, which is somebody who drags you through hell. And they are somebody, they're like the best teacher on the planet. The way you can usually determine the difference, because a lot of twin flames do the same thing to each other. Um, the way you can determine is usually plutonic partners are here to teach you one thing, but twin flames, the lessons are endless. So when somebody, like I had a partner at one point, ironically enough, who was an addict, and his lessons to me, lesson to me, it was like the moment I got it, he disappeared. That is a karmic partner or someone, and a lot of people mistake twin flames for that person. Usually, if you are really aligning with the twin flame journey, you will have one or two of those very toxic karmic partners. It's your job to see it, to see what they're mirroring back to you, to work on healing it, and recognize the lesson. It's almost like magic. Like the moment you're like, oh, You're here to teach me about this. You're here to teach me about addiction. Poof, away they go. Gone. And, twin flames will never totally leave your life. Um, Even if you've been married to someone who is considered a karmic or whatever, the lesson will dissipate in you. It won't feel so fraught. It won't feel so um I don't know what the word is. It's just like so attached. You won't feel so attached. Once you get the lesson, once you figure it out, it's like, oh, you're just somebody I used to know. It doesn't like you are able to detach. That's not the truth with twin flames. And twin flames have a baseline of respect and love. Even if the lessons are pretty rough, there's still a baseline of love. Karmic partners, no, not at all. And many times those karmic partners don't even know that they're a karmic partner of yours. A lot of times twin flames are like, oh, you're my twin flame. And the karmic partner's like, what is the big deal here? Why is this so awful for you? Like, a lot of times they don't even care, which in many ways that's a lesson, right? That you're like so crazy about someone who doesn't even care. Ugh, that's a terrible lesson. So,
Oh, wow.
personal experience.
Wow. Man, I feel like I can talk to you forever. I'm learning so much. I'm like, oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I know you've
Yay.
inspired our listeners too. And then if they want to go ahead and connect with you, how can they do so?
My YouTube channel is called Soulful Revolution TV, and I put out readings every day. So right now I'm in the middle of talking about some of the portals that are happening here. We're recording this at the end or October of 2024. And there's a lot of very strong energy happening, especially around the election, around a lot of things. So you can come to my channel and watch videos, or you can be part of my Pathfinder group. We meet every Wednesday at 1 o'clock, and I do an hour where you can ask questions, and then I'll teach a lesson. In 2024, I'm teaching about intuition and how to access that. And then in 2025, the lessons will be about another topic. So to be determined.
Super cool. And I will have everything in the show notes for our listeners. But Mary Jo, any last words you would like to share?
No, thank you. I'm just so happy to be here. And I was just so interested in your Sagittarian sun. And you really need to send me your information and I'll do your chart for you. We can talk about it later.
Oh, nice. Yes, thank you. I love that. Well,
Sure.
well, have a beautiful day today. And it was so nice meeting you.
You too. Thank you so much, Gina. Take care of yourself.